So I know it's early, but I do have some seedlings that I've started already. So I will show you guys how I got it set up here. So in this little indoor greenhouse tent, I have a 74 cell seedling tray. And I know it's early for our zone. We are zone, I believe we're 4B. But what I have here, mostly in the middle here, are onions. So I have green onions, Cortland onions, which are like a yellow onion, and leeks. And then these are asparagus because I wanted to try out and see how long it took because I haven't done asparagus before. And these are from seed, so onions from seed. So it's actually not too early for them. And then we have jalapeno peppers, tomatillos, chili peppers, and regular red peppers. And the reason why I started those early is because I have notoriously bad experience growing peppers. So these ones we're going to go into our greenhouse when we get our greenhouse set up, and hopefully that will help. But I'm also starting them early so that if something fails with them, then I have time to plant more seeds or figure out what I can do better. Now I also have these grow lights here and a little fan. So what I started off doing is I have a seedling heat mat which went underneath of this, and then that helped germinate the seeds. Once they had mostly or all sprouted, I removed the heat mat and added the fan. So that the fan does is it helps simulate wind outside, and that way when it's growing it'll hopefully strengthen their stalks a bit more than without the fan. So my question to you guys is, I've got a couple. One's with the onions. So they are quite long. I'd say they're about 4 or 5 inches, which tells me that I could probably thin them out at this point. But they are also quite thin. Like the stalks are quite thin, which is what I would call that leggy. But I don't think that that's actually what's happening. I think that may just be what the plant looks like because I haven't grown onions before. So if someone can tell me if that looks normal and should I thin them out yet? I know the peppers are almost ready to be thinned and then I will pot them. Hi everybody, it's Kadri from Howling Acres Homestead, and today I'm going to be making cream cheese. So I know I promised you guys a cheese video, and this one is going to be, like I said, cream cheese, which is super easy to make, and I thought I'd start with something simple that you guys can do at home with minimal equipment. And then the next video that I do for cheese will be a pressed cheese, which you will need a cheese press for, so it's a little bit more complicated. So today I'm going to be using a recipe that I haven't used before because I got this wonderful book called Artisan Cheesemaking at Home by Karlin, and I'll put a link to this in the description. I just wanted to point out that any links that I put in the description as of yet are not affiliate links. They're just for posterity so that I can keep track and that you guys can have some resources. So I'm going to be using this book today for making cream cheese. So what you'll need if you're going to be doing this at home, you'll need a double boiler is best. That way you're not scalding your milk. So a double boiler is best, or a sous vide, or something where the milk is not at the heat source directly. I'm not going to be using that. I'm going to be using a pot directly on the element. The difference is it just means that you have to be a bit more careful and make sure that you don't scald the milk in the bottom. Then what you're going to need is something to stir your curds with. Stainless steel, you want something non-reactive, so always go with stainless steel. Cheesecloth. So you can use just a strip of cheesecloth, something that's big enough that you can tie it. Because what we're going to do is we're going to make the cream cheese and the curds in the whey, and then we're going to strain it through cheesecloth. This one is what I like to use for cream cheese because it's a bag. So it's super easy. You just put everything inside and then I can tie it up and hang it and let it drain that way. But if you don't have a bag, cheesecloth bag, you can just use like a square of cheesecloth and tie it up. Then you're going to need pickling salt, cheese salt, preserving salt. It's all the same thing. What it means is that it doesn't have iodine in it, so you don't want salt with iodine in it. Then calcium chloride. If you're using milk that is pasteurized, you want to be using calcium chloride because you lose some of the calcium during the pasteurization process. Then you'll need a coagulant or rennet. You can buy animal rennet or vegetable rennet, depending on either what's available to you, or if you're vegetarian but you still eat cheese, you can get vegetable rennet. And that sets the curds, so it makes it from a liquid to a semi-solid. You'll need your culture. For this, for cream cheese, we're using a mesophilic culture. Thermometer. An instant read is probably best. Mine is out of batteries, so I'm going to be using a regular thermometer. 2 stainless steel bowls. These are because you need to dilute your calcium chloride and your rennet in non-chlorinated water. So if you live in the city, you will want to dilute it with distilled water that you can buy from, you know, most grocery stores or Walmart or whatever. We don't have chlorine in our water here with our well, so I can just use tap water, and I haven't had any issues with that. So you'll need 2 stainless steel bowls to dilute that. Oh, and then your milk. So you're gonna need your milk. For this recipe here, it's calling for a quart of pasteurized whole milk, cow's milk, and a quart of pasteurized heavy cream. So it didn't specify what heavy cream meant. My grocery store has half and half, which is 5%. It has 10%, it has 18%, and then whipping cream, which is 35%. I probably should have got the whipping cream because that's the heaviest. But I thought that that might be overkill. So I got the 18%. If you know what is considered heavy cream, please let me know. But I guess we're gonna see how this works out. So the first step to any cheese making is sterilization. So you wanna make sure that you're not introducing any bacteria from your hands or from your equipment into your cheese. It's especially important for aged cheeses because it has longer to grow. But for any cheese, you want to make sure your hands are very well washed and all of your equipment is sterilized. So the pot that I'm going to be using for the cheese today for warming the milk is this one here. Right now, all I have in it is water, and it's going to be bringing it up to boiling. And I'm going to boil all of my equipment for 10 or 15 minutes and before I start warming up the milk. And that way I know that everything's clean. And then what I'll do is I'll wet my counters down and spritz them with a vinegar water solution just to make sure that if I put a utensil down on the counter that it is not being cross-contaminated. And I apologize for the background noise. It is very cold out today. When you walk outside, it's that kind of cold where your nostrils immediately start to freeze up. The dog's feet were picking up their feet when they were going outside. So they have not had a WALK today yet. I'm waiting for it to warm up, so they are playing in the living room like maniacs. All right, so this is not quite boiling yet, but I'm gonna get started. So I'm gonna put my 2 bowls that I'm going to dilute the calcium chloride and the rennet in, and I'm gonna put those in the water bath. And I'm going to put my stainless steel stirrer in there. It doesn't go all the way in, obviously, but that's what's going to be touching the milk. And then the handle, what I'll do is wipe it with a vinegar solution. Our cheesecloth, that's got to go in too. And our thermometer. Okay, so now that everything's sterilized, the other thing that I added to the pot off camera was a pair of tongs. That way they were nice and clean, and I had something that I can pull the items out of the water with without having to, because obviously you have to dump the water, and that way everything stays clean. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to be putting in our milk and our heavy cream. So a quart of each. I'm going to do a liter of each. A quart and a liter aren't exactly the same, but they are close enough, and I'm going to measure in liters. So this says it's a liter, but I'm going to measure it anyways. exactly a liter. Are you helping? It is also hard to maintain a sterile environment when you have 4 giant dogs, but we do our best. All right, so if I was using a water bath, what I would have done is warmed up the water to about 85 degrees and then put the double boiler inside and warmed it up that way. Instead, I'm going to put this on like medium-low and put our thermometer inside. And we're only warming it up to 75 Fahrenheit. I'm not sure what that is in Celsius, but maybe I can put it right here. We'll see if that works. And then when you're stirring milk, you do what they call up and down strokes, just really gently to mix everything together. That's why I like this spoon, because it's a slotted spoon and I can just bring the milk up and down. Should take about 15 minutes to bring it to the right temperature. You don't want to be heating it too quickly. It's one thing that I really like about cheese making is you have to move slowly. It's almost, I'm really bad at meditation, but it's almost a meditative act. With cooking, I find a lot of times it's like, I'm really hungry, let's cook something together and cook really quickly just so that I can eat. But with cheese making, you have to be cognizant of your speed. So it kind of forces you to take a breath and just slow down and enjoy the process. So while that's warming up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix my calcium chloride and my rennet separately, but I'm going to dilute them with water. So with the calcium chloride and the rennet, it's a very, very small amount. So what I usually do is I have these tiny droppers, but they got lost in the move. So I'm just going to have to estimate this. Okay, so we're at temperature. I'm going to take that off the heat. This is also my first time using this culture. The other culture I had, I didn't run out of it, but I stored it improperly and I ruined it. So make sure that you follow the instructions for your type of culture. Okay, so the culture, you're going to just gently tap around the surface. You don't want it all in one clump. And then what you're going to do is you're going to not touch it for 5 minutes. And what you're doing is you're rehydrating the culture. So it's a powder, basically. And you're just going to let it sit on the surface and let it slowly rehydrate. If you were to stir it in right now, what you're going to get, it's going to rehydrate too quickly and it's going to just turn into these big clumps and you won't have that even culture throughout whatever cheese you're making. So you're going to leave it there for 5 minutes. I'm going to set a timer and then we'll move on to the next step. So while the culture is rehydrating, I'm going to talk about timing. So what this is, what we're doing right now, once we're done this, we're going to let it sit for 12 hours until the curd sets. And then we're going to drain it in our muslin bag, our cheesecloth bag, for about 8 hours. So I'm doing this, it's the morning right now. So with 12 hours, so tonight right before bed is when I'll hang it. I'll let it hang overnight for 8 hours. And then in the morning, I will be able to do the final steps. Alternatively, what you can do is you can do it in the evening. You let it set the 12 hours overnight. In the morning, you hang it. You go to work or do whatever you're doing for 8 hours. And then when you come back, then you can do the next steps. So Because cheese making is a longer process, you do want to kind of work backwards with your time to make sure that you're not having to do things at 4 in the morning or something like that. So it's been 5 minutes now. So this recipe book says to whisk in the culture, but all the recipes that I've used in the past, I've just done the up and down stroke, which is what I'm going to be doing right now. So we're just going to incorporate the rehydrated culture. Okay, so I'm going to mix our calcium chloride in. And same thing, up and down strokes. And then our rennet. Really wish I could have walked the dogs this morning, but it's like minus 25 Celsius out. And even the Malamute doesn't want to be outside. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave this. I'm not going to touch it, and I'm going to leave it there for 12 hours. So I'm going to come back around, I'm going to check it. It's 10 to 10 a.m. right now. I'm going to check it probably around 9 p.m. And then see every 20 minutes after that and make sure that the curds are set. And I'll come back and we'll see you tonight. Okay, so it's been about 10 hours, and I know I said we were going to leave it for 12, but it's up to 12 or until the curds are set, and the curds are set. So I'm looking at it now, and I can just visually see that they're set, but I'll show you another way that you can check. So you can see here, it definitely doesn't look like liquid, but one of the ways to check for curds is with a clean finger. You're going to stick it in and just lift it up, and you want a nice clean break like that. So if you can see, it's a nice clean break. So that's how you know that the curds are ready. So we're almost done with the process. The next thing that we're going to do is with our nice clean muslin bag that we cleaned this morning. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a bag. You can just line this with just regular cheesecloth. What I have here is a stainless steel bowl, and then also a non-reactive strainer. I have this plastic one, I like it. And I'm going to put the cheesecloth bag inside of it. Okay, so now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to carefully ladle these curds into the bag. Now, just my initial impression from other times that I've made cream cheese, this is a lot of a more firm of a set than I'm used to. So that could be for any number of reasons. I was using a different culture this time. It could have been the milk or cream that I was using. Could have been too much rennet. Because remember how I had to estimate it because I don't know where my droppers went. But normally it'd be a lot more, you have a lot more loose whey separated from the curds. But I'm sure once we hang it overnight, they will separate. Okay, so now that we have everything in the muslin bag, what you're going to do is you're just going to hang it. Oh, now I can see the whey coming out. Just needs some gravity. So what I'm going to do is, if you don't have dogs that will eat it if you leave it out, you can hang it somewhere in your kitchen or, wherever makes sense. A lot of people will put the bowl in their sink and somehow hang it above their sink. I'm going to find somewhere else to hang it overnight so that you don't eat it. Yeah, you. So I'm going to find somewhere else to hang it behind a closed door. And then in the morning, we'll come back and we'll do the last step. Good morning. So it is now 7:30 in the morning the next day. All of our morning farm chores are done and I take a shower. So now I'm going to get to cream cheese. So I had it hanging and you can see from our whey here that there is quite a bit of whey in there. I'd say that's maybe, I don't know, I'll have to measure it, maybe half a liter. There we go. we have about 950 grams. Okay, so you can see now, it looks like cream cheese. So all I'm gonna do now is just we're gonna salt it. So I'm gonna put a teaspoon. So I'm gonna start with half a teaspoon because my salt preferences tend to be a lot lower than a lot of recipes. Start with half a teaspoon and then taste it and then adjust it as needed. Oh, this is really good. I'm gonna go add a little bit more salt. Oh, perfect. Okay, so that turned out really, really well. I think that's the best cream cheese that I've made. So it's very creamy. I don't think I would have gone with the whipping cream after all. I think the 18% worked really well. And it's got a really, really nice consistency. It's quite creamy, like I said. Adding the salt kind of brings out a bit more of that like tartness in cream cheese, but it's not like, it's still sweet. Like it's really good. So that works out really well. So now we have the ricotta, or sorry, not the ricotta, whey, which can be used to make ricotta. So I am gonna save that, and I think the dogs also really like it. It's almost time for their breakfast, as you can hear Spirit yelling about because it's almost breakfast time for them. I save old yogurt containers for leftovers and as like Tupperware. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put the cream cheese into this, and then my little trick for leftovers in the fridge with these is try to save the ones that are clear so you can tell like, oh, that's not what the label says. And if it's not, use a lid from a different container on top so that you know if it's mismatched, it's a leftover homemade food or whatever. But if they match, then it's probably what says it's in the container. Once you have your cream cheese into a container or containers, because this one's taking 2, you can store it in the fridge for probably about 2 weeks. So all said and done, it came out to about 1 3/4 of these size containers. And I measured it earlier, like I said, and it was about 950 grams. So it's a great yield with cream cheese as well, which is nice. I found the first time I made a hard cheese, I was like, where did all that milk go? Because you use 10 liters or 10 quarts of milk, or 2.5 gallons, and you end up with like 1 brick of cheese. So it's a lot more satisfying, and then you have to wait as well for it to ripen. So it's a lot more satisfying to do something like cream cheese, especially right off the bat when you're new. I'm definitely not an expert by any means. I'm still also very new to cheese making, but I find that especially if you've had a failure where a cheese didn't work out, or you want to do something quick, that gratification to kind of see, okay, is what I'm doing working, then cream cheese is great because now it's ready to eat. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have some breakfast. I think I'll have some cream cheese on some fresh pumpernickel bread, and then I will feed the dogs, and I will see you later. So thanks for joining us again at Howling Acres Homestead. Hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what other videos you guys would like to see. We're in the polar vortex right now, so there's not a whole lot we can do outside besides maintaining, the driveway and taking care of the chickens who do not want to be outside. We've been trying to let them out, but they don't want to go outside. Yeah, so stay tuned for more videos. Spring should be on its way very soon, I hope, and we shall have some more exciting videos as well. But yeah, so thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Buddy. Buddy, can you go lay down, please? Yeah, Mommy's trying to make a video. The other thing, oh, puppy. Out, please. Oh, thank you. How did I get milk in this? So while the culture is rehydrating, I'm going to talk a little bit about timing. Excuse you. Well, that's not sterile anymore. Good thing I don't need this. Cheese making with a puppy. A little bit more difficult. A step that's not in the book is to remove the dog hairs when you can. Remove the dog hair. You are not helping. Roo roo. Excuse you. Rude. Rude.